On July 29th, the Illuminerdi reported that Uruguayan filmmaker Fede Alvarez of Don't Breathe fame is in talks to direct a reboot of Zorro for Sony Pictures. This reboot will reportedly be based on The Curse of Capistrano, the original Zorro story by Johnson McCulley, and the one story that most of our modern-day pop culture can trace its lineage back to. In this video, I will begin by going through what is known about this project thus far and what happened with the various other Zorro reboots attempted over the last few years. Then I'll break down the full significance of The Curse of Capistrano and why it represents a kind of storytelling contemporary Hollywood is in a dire need of returning to today. So far, we honestly don't know much. This scoop was broken by the Illuminerdi, and since they first broke it, no one else have offered more details. Probably because these are still very early days, and there might not be much more of note to report. What they do report though, is that Fede Alvarez is in talks, meaning still subject to change, to direct a Zorro reboot for Sony Pictures, and that it will likely be based on The Curse of Capistrano. While it would have been nice with confirmation from the trades, all of this does pass the smell test. While Sony Pictures financially are in a far better place now than they were just a few years ago, they are still in dire need of more franchises. And ideally franchises where they don't have to cut in Marvel. A Zorro franchise would fit that bill. They knocked it out of the park with The Mask of Zorro back in 1998, where Antonio Banderas played a young protege who took on the mantle of the second Zorro. Alas, for the sequel, they brought franchise killer Alex Kurtzman into the fray, so that iteration of Zorro was stopped dead in its tracks right there. Today, Antonio Banderas is too old to reprise the role of the second Zorro, but I can see why Sony would be interested in going back to the adventures of the original Zorro. Most of director Fede Alvarez Hollywood movies were Sony movies, so he is someone in their stable and one of their go-to directors. That they chose to go with him for this suggests that tonally, they're probably looking for a no-nonsense gritty reboot. And that is something The Curse of Capistrano lends itself to. Before we explore that though, other Zorro productions have also been announced in recent years. Whatever happened to those? Different production teams have been trying to get different Zorro projects off the ground for the better part of a decade. In 2015, a post-apocalyptic future Zorro tale was announced from writer and director Jonas Cuarón. It was set to star Gael Garcia Bernal and, by all accounts, Kiersey Clemens as gender-bent Zorro. The project might be revived at some point, but at this moment in time, it's dead in the water. In December of 2020, another female-centric Zorro reboot series was announced for NBC. And then in January of this year, yet another female-centric Zorro reboot series was announced by Sequoia Studios. Unlike the NBC series though, this one is aimed primarily at Spanish-language markets. So far as I can tell, both of these series remain in development. But whether or not they end up actually happening depends on if they receive the necessary green lights and funding from their distributors and funding partners. That is of course true of the Sony movie that Fede Alvarez is in talks to direct as well. Depending on funding, we could end up getting one or more of these, we could also end up getting all, or we could end up getting none of them. Nothing is certain for anyone until the cameras are rolling. But let's assume for the moment that Sony's Zorro movie will move forward and that it will indeed be based on The Curse of Capistrano. What is the significance of that? "100 years ago, there were no comics as we know them today. No superheroes, no YouTube, no Netflix, no HBO Max, no Disney+. There were, however, the pulp magazines, and they served the same purpose as all of the above do today. Countless pulp stories were published across numerous pulp magazines each and every week. And in 5 installments between the August 9th and September 6th of 1919 issues of Argosy All-Story Weekly, Johnson McCulley's The Curse of Capistrano was first published. This was the original tale of Zorro, but rather than drowning amidst all the other magazines and stories available on store shelves, it stood out enough to attract the attention of the biggest movie star of the day, Douglas Fairbanks. At this time, Fairbanks and his business associates were setting up their own movie production company in United Artists, and they wanted to launch it with a bang, with a movie that was unlike anything audiences at the time had ever seen. They wanted to take filmmaking to a whole new level, with action, stunts, filming and editing beyond anything anyone at the time dreamt possible. They just needed the right story for such an ambitious feature film, and they found it in The Curse of Capistrano. For marketing purposes, the movie adaptation was retitled The Mark of Zorro. Released in 1920, it blew audiences away. It forever changed the way movies were made, and all later action and adventure movies can trace their lineage back to the original The Mark of Zorro. The influence didn't just stop there though. It was one of Lee Falk's main inspirations for creating the Phantom, who in turn would set the template for Superman. And later still, both Bob Kane and Bill Finger were independently of each other inspired by it in their joint creation of Batman. Considering everything else that was later derived from Batman, Superman and the Phantom respectively, it is no exaggeration to claim that the original Mark of Zorro and the story which inspired it, The Curse of Capistrano, is the very foundations upon which our genre entertainment and culture is built. In recent years, culture in general, and genre culture in particular, has been deliberately subverted by people who want to, bury the past, kill it if you have to, and who then fail miserably in replacing it with something anyone actually wants. Well, the best antidote to modern subversion is going back to what actually worked and continue from there. If Sony actually proceeds with this reboot, and more importantly, if they allow Fede Alvarez to do a faithful adaptation of The Curse of Capistrano in his vision, that could be something remarkable and just what we need right about now. Let a modern-day Mark of Zorro show the way, just as the original did 100 years ago. If you haven't seen that movie, I suggest you do. You can see it for free right now on YouTube. To make it easy for you, we even uploaded the absolute best version of it to our sister channel Midnight's Edge Espanol. Link for that is in the description. There you'll also find the link to our recent watch party of that movie, where we also provide context and commentary to the footage. We also did a whole retrospective on the Mark of Zorro and the franchise as a whole, so this is a production we will keep you posted on as updates become available. Till then, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments.